So good morning, everybody. Excited to be here. I was going to say that, let's talk about big data, making it real time, in memory, and I wasn't sure how much it would be in terms of getting everybody up to speed on in memory, the advantages of it, why, and I just had a perfect, as you say, a segue. I mean, I couldn't have paid money for that, right? And that was wonderful, so thank you. So before we get into this, a little bit of introduction about myself. I am Vice President with SAP Labs here in Bangalore. I've spent time in SAP in Palo Alto, and before that in the world of supply chain and with strategy consulting at the Boston Consulting Group. Right now I look after SAP Mobile Services. The name may be a little misleading when we say mobile services. This is about core messaging. So how do we reach consumers? How do we provide activities like SMS, in-app messaging, and then further more details like consumer insights. So that's a little bit of a background about where I am at. In terms of what is SAP? So I'm not sure how many people here are aware of who SAP is, who we are, how we started. So we are the third largest software company in the world. We have our roots in enterprise software, in optimizations. However, in the years, we have grown in areas beyond those. We are the number one in analytics. We are leaders in mobile. And now with in-memory, we are making a fast move up the chain of disrupting that space. Over 250,000 customers in 120 countries or so. And there was an interesting statistic that I think 74% of the world's transactions, economic transactions, touch our SAP system. So that's just a little bit of who we are, where we are coming from. But let's talk about making big data real and real time. So why this discussion, right? The first thing, there is the in-memory revolution. You just heard all about the revolution right before this talk, right? I don't want to get into all of those details yet again, right? It is occurring. This is once in a lifetime where, things cross. There is also one more interesting thing. If you see the cost of, memory, dollar per memory over the years, the graph is going down. More importantly, if you see dollar per, flops, which is the computing capabilities, that's actually going down at a faster pace. So what does that mean? That means that it's much cheaper to actually store information, but then it's actually becoming even more cheaper to process and react to it. So that's why I think we are all here talking about that one trend. There is the other aspect, right? I mean, I think all of you are, I can now safely say, either on one form or the other of a social network, whether it is Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, or what have you, right? So you are there, we are connected, we are actually now interacting with businesses. So that is one more aspect of phenomenal growth. And I'm sure by now, through many presentations, you have seen how many, petabytes and zettabytes of data that we create every day, how much we are doubling it in 18 months, how much Walmart generates in 5 days, which is 10 times the US National Library and Congress, etc. Right? But the fact is that we are creating a lot of data. Right? And now the question is, how do we manage that? How do we make sense of it? I mean, are we first trying to find a haystack and then the needle, or we are trying to find the needle in the haystack? There's a difference. Right. There is also the aspect of, just because I can collect it, should I store it and react to it? More importantly, it is also time for us, right, as business folks, as developers, and those of you who have been in this journey for a while, to go back and look at some of the ideas and dust those plans again. Remember in the early 2000s, there was this thing called RFID. We would have this radio frequencies, chips on all, all consumer devices, all pieces of clothing, and we would track it. We'd know how things are moving, how they're shifting. The problem was, what do we do with that data? How do you store it? It was just phenomenally expensive to store and react to it in real time to make any sense. Now the constraints are being lifted. So then, of course, there is the element of machine learning, right? What if the machine can tell you how do you react to things? And finally, right, we all have at least 3 devices per person here in this room for sure, right? I mean, you've got your phone, your laptop, and then maybe another tablet. So there are all of these things, and this leads to, many, many ripple effects that goes through. And how do we react to it? And now let's shift back to enterprises. On the right, you see this classical graph, the TPC benchmarks that we see. So people have often thought that, look, when you think of workloads, you should look at read, write, and there is a balance. But is it true for all applications? There was a wonderful statement made in the previous talk that if you look at enterprises and ask them what's the size of their data, it's about 2 terabytes, spot on. We analyzed all our ERP customers. We said, how big is your database? How is it growing? You know what we found? That with the kind of compressions we can get in memory, about 10 petabytes would accumulate all of our 70,000 customers. It goes all the way from Nestle, Colgate, to a small, medium supplier. So what we also did was we analyzed the workloads of enterprise applications, and those are the 2 graphs that you see on the left. See something interesting. Read is actually a much more dominant characteristic when you think of these databases. And that fundamentally shifts on how we think about an in-memory database and what's the opportunity to redesign that. I'm not going to dwell on this slide. You have seen this already. The DRAM prices have been falling down tremendously over the years. That means suddenly things that were implausible, non-economic, beneficial a few years ago are now right there. You can achieve that. And then, it hurts when, or actually it warms you up, right? When you see 2 people prepare 2 presentations, and then you see, man, he's just saying exactly the same thing that I was, or planning to say I was. And this is the point here, right? Look at these access times when you go from the cache all the way down to main memory to disk. So I'm not going to spend time on that, but the more important thing is locality is key, right? The closer you are to the information, less of aggregates that you create, less layers that you introduce, the better all we will be, right, in this journey. So what's Hana? Hana is SAP's in-memory technology platform that is leveraging these trends, these capabilities that I talked about. It's massively parallel in-memory columnar database. We are shrinking the world of OLAP and OLTP. When you think of enterprise, you are dealing with structured and unstructured data, right? Does it mean that, other capabilities, big data solutions like Hadoop are replaced by Hana or Hana replaces them? No. They work together, right? There is a place in this whole story, in this journey, where they come together, right? And then below you see some stats in terms of does it actually work? Does it actually scale, right? And so these are the capabilities that we have done, right? 3.5 billion scans per second per core, right? 15 million aggregates per second per core. The idea, why is Hana so different? Because we do not create aggregates. We do not create views on top of views. There is one data, and then you create aggregates on the fly. There is a session later on today on Hana where you can get deep dive into the capabilities. But for us as SAP, that is the path forward, right? We would have the Hana platform and then our applications, both cloud and on-premise, analytics built on top of it, and we are exposing that to our partners to build things on top of it. So none of this is of any relevance if we cannot make it real for businesses, if we cannot change how the world is operating, right? And we actually see this happening now in three ways. One, there's a fundamental approach to simplifying business processes. Just because you go and somebody and say, hey, look, you were able to do this activity in we have seen this, people were doing a certain activity in 1 week, and now we are able to do that in few seconds. First there is amazement, and then comes the more fundamental question, so what? Right? I was able to get this report in 1 week, now I get it in a few seconds. Some cases make a difference, but in the others, so what? Right? And this is where you have to think of, are you taking a new approach to your business processes? Are you simplifying them? Second, you have to think of new breakthroughs, and finally you have to create some new amazing experiences. So how are companies doing that? Right? So there is simplified financials. How a company thinks of its ledgers, accounting systems can now be changed. About 35, 40 years ago, SAP revolutionized this world by saying, look, there will be a general ledger, there will be an accounting, and this will track things across various business units. Now we are again retransforming that in saying, look, we can simplify this further. There is no need for 7 days after the quarter closes that you need to know how did I actually do. You should be able to do that in real time. Manufacturing, you can disrupt that whole supply chain because the time between the plan and act can now be shrunk. Same goes for inventory policies. So here's some of the ways that we see things that, personalized medicine, connected cars, in-moment promotion, and here I talk about, one of our retailers, Yodobashi in Japan. They wanted us to use Hana to analyze their, frequent shopper card information and see if they are doing well with them. That report used to take them, a week or 10 days, and with Hana and the way that we structured that, they were able to do that in a few seconds, actually 2.5 seconds. That led them to actually change their whole approach, which is, as you are checking out, depending upon your status, the software can figure out and give you a real-time offer. What that means is that, you are able to identify who are my valued customers, how do I respond to them, how do I take care of them, right? So that is the element of in-moment promotion that comes in. There is, of course, you can change a whole bunch of things. We are transforming developer experience. If you think about, SAP River, the platform that we are building on HANA for developers, it takes a fundamentally different approach on coding. When you think about, sports experience, we're transforming that. So we are working with the various football leagues in Europe and others, NBA in the US. But then again, right, that's not all of that exciting, right? Are we doing something here in India? Yes. Kolkata Knight Riders actually built their auction analytics solution on HANA and used it for this year's IPL bidding. With the massive amount of information, right? And this is IPL stats, other information, pulled all in memory, right? And then you create views on top of it. You can come up with your pre-bid strategies. What is my dream team? What is the price am I willing to pay for it? Right? Should I? And I would hope that going forward, more and more of our IPL teams will embrace our solutions, right? And therefore, hopefully, for those of us here in Bangalore, we may not land up paying 14 crores for one player and 4 crore of that was by mistake. Right? So we should know in an auction when to say, yes, he's good, but not that good, or I spend all my money on him. Or maybe this is the answer, this is that one thing that I need. Right? So they're using that today. This is in action. And finally, for all of you developers, for all of you who are trying to think about startup, you want to build something of your own. We have the HANA Startup Program. The S somewhat gets pulled to the side, but anyhow, I have the link there at the bottom. We encourage startups to come work with us in all spheres of life. We are not necessarily saying only if you are an enterprise business application and you are doing this, then we will work with you. No. You come work with us. If you have an interesting problem, if there is a match of minds, we will move forward. We have Hana available to you as a platform in various forms. In Amazon, you can go and buy them by the hour. We have options available otherwise within SAP. So that's my a quick intro to the world of real-time business. We are changing as SAP. We are changing how we do business, how we are asking our customers to business, how we are building out the platforms. And my questions to you is, are you ready? Thank you. And I really appreciate the time here today and giving us this opportunity to share with you our views.